Well, thank you for having me here. And yeah, when I look back on my life, I started doing lectures and talking about the shape of the world and how people don't understand what's going on. They have no idea about the underpinnings of civilization and how the world works. I started giving small little Mickey Mouse lectures at mom and pop bookstores and Christian bookstores and ladies clubs and little venues with little groups. I started doing that kind of thing back in 1959, which is 58 years ago. And 58 years later, I'm still doing it. Now I'm doing it on radio and doing it around the world. But I've been talking about the subjects that I deal with for 58 years, and believe me, I'm tired. I'm very tired, but I also realize that there are so many people who are hurting in this world, and so many terrible tragedies going on. And I know, because I roam around the world, I know that people, generally speaking, don't know what's going on. They have no idea in the world. They have been, kept busy trying to pay bills and stay alive, and so they don't have time to take, a lifetime of 58 years and just sit back and read and study about how the world works and what the words that we use, what they mean, and where the ideas have come from, and where the concepts and the belief systems and things that we believe and things that we do, where did they start? Who started it? Where, what does it all mean? So basically, most people are here today because they were born, and they do whatever it is they do by the seat of their pants because they don't know what they're doing. And then one day they pass away and leave this world. And while they were here, they had no idea where they came from, and they had no idea what they were doing here. And when they leave here, they have no idea where they're going. And so that's the story of the human race. Nobody knows nothing. So the problem has been education. Education is the bottom line on all the problems of the world today. It's quite simply education. How well informed are you? And how well read and how sophisticated in your thinking are you as to where you are in the world, what you're doing, and when you leave here, where you're going. And so, like I said, most people don't have time to think about such things. They got more important things to do, like a basketball game and Paris Hilton and TV shows and worrying themselves sick about North Korea. And so I just sit back after some 58 years of trying to educate people as to how the world works. And I realize today that I have spent my entire life on subjects which most people don't even know exist, and the majority couldn't care less. And so it's been very disheartening to me doing what I do and being who I am. But, when you reach 77 years old, it doesn't matter, what you've done with your life. It's too late anyway. And you've already done it, so what? So I did the best I could at trying to educate my fellow man, but I became aware rather quickly that most people are not interested in education. People are not interested in knowledge. They don't care. They don't care a thing about knowledge or wisdom or understanding. They just want to drink the beer and have a full belly and have food to eat and drink the beer and watch TV and go and live and be happy with your friends and have many friends who love you and who like you and you like them and go to the synagogue and know that you are God's chosen people and or go to the church or to the mosque and know that the Lord loves you, and the hell with everybody else. And so people just live their lives like that. They come and go. They come in. They're ignorant. They leave this world. They're ignorant. They leave children, and their children are ignorant. So they have children, and they're ignorant. And so leave it all alone, and pretty soon you have 7.5 billion people on the earth who collectively have got an IQ of about 40. And so now how are you going to do anything with 7 billion people who do not even know they're alive, have no education, no background of understanding, no spiritual grounding? They've never asked any serious questions, which is just as well, because if they got an answer, they wouldn't understand it anyway. And so I just, at my age, I just sit back quietly and watch the world go to hell in color, and realizing that I've been trying to talk to people for some 58 years about how the world works, but nobody seems to really see the value of that, except that handful of people who are supposed to know. And that's important, because there is, as there has always been in the history of the world, there has always been a small, tiny, select handful of people who are very interested and who want to know. And so most people on the earth don't want to know. They don't care one way or the other what the truth is. They don't give it. Doesn't matter until they get in trouble. Now, if you get a knock on the door from the federal government, and you're being indicted, and you might go, and you're facing a 35 or 40 years prison sentence, all of a sudden now you need somebody who knows what they're doing. Now you need a lawyer who can save you. Now you need an expert, somebody who knows how to come in and walk the walk and talk the talk, and knows how to protect you, because you're going to prison for 40 years. And so now it's important. Why? Well, now your life hangs in the balance. But you weren't interested in the law before. You didn't give a damn about how law works or how courts work, or you didn't care about any of that. But now that you're in trouble, now you need to pay somebody a lot of money who does know. And so that's why I just watched the world. As I came into this world, I was mystified. And the longer I live here, I'm even more mystified at the world I live in. But I realized that, it's a very old story. And that's why the New Testament story of Jesus, we call it the Bible, and the story of Jesus in the New Testament it's often referred to as the greatest story ever told. And the reason why we, generally speaking, call the story of Jesus the greatest story ever told is because, in point of fact, that's what it is. It is the greatest story that's ever been told. Why? Because it's the only story that's ever been told. It's been told over and over and over again for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. The same story has been told on the earth. Nobody got it to start with. Nobody's getting it now. And I'm confident that nobody's really going to understand it in the future. It's the oldest story ever told, and it's so simple that nobody ever figured it out. The New Testament story of Jesus is nothing more than a metaphor. It's a symbolic story. And that's why the Bible has Jesus saying to the people of his day, you have eyes, but do not see. You have ears, but you do not hear. And with your heart, you do not get the sense of it. And so today, like then, thousands of years ago, people have eyes. They're always looking, but they don't see what's going on. And they listen and they hear, but they don't hear anything. that makes any sense.
It does.
And with their heart, they don't get the sense of what's going on. So, but there's always been a handful, a select tiny handful, that will sincerely want to know, and they will be given because the scripture says, knock and it will be open, seek and you will find,
Exactly.
ask and it will be given. So, unless you're out there knocking and seeking and asking, then it's not going to be given. I mean, you can act like you can sit back in your lawn chair and talk about, oh, I wish this was wrong, I wish that was better, and I wish this and I wish that. Yeah, well, it doesn't mean anything. You can sit back there all you want and talk about it, but if you don't understand what's going on, then you might as well go on and have your beer and go on to go to the ball game. Don't worry about it because you don't have anything to say about nothing anyway. And so I've said it many times, but I think it bears witness again to say that the American people, we do not have any power to do anything. We do not have any power to accomplish anything. And the reason why is simple because knowledge is power. And the American people have little to no knowledge about how the world really works, what's actually going on the earth and how it works. Very few people have that kind of sophisticated knowledge. And usually those people that do have that kind of knowledge are very bright, smart, and very clever, and they know exactly how this whole dark, dirty world system really works, and they will use it to promote themselves. They will use it to trample over you and your rights, and use it to make themselves wealthy and powerful. But generally speaking, even the people in power today have no real knowledge of how the world works. And if they do, they know that they need to do whatever they're told to do because you can be killed today. You can die today in America if you know something you're not supposed to know, and if you go against the powers that be, you can be removed. And so people in politics and presidents and all the congressmen and people like that are in positions of power. They know that there is a power unseen that they have to abide by. And if you try and do anything with it, it'll kill you. John Kennedy wanted to face up to it, and they killed him and others in the past. So the bottom line is that knowledge is power. And so many people don't know what's going on. That's why they can't do anything to change anything. I mean, we like to brag about how we in America have the right to elect our leaders, but you don't have the right to select your leader. You can only elect, not select. And so any good person who could be of real value to the country will never be allowed to run for anything. And if there were, what there's probably never been, if there was someone who was truly a spiritually strong, powerful person in their own right, who wanted to do what was good for the country and for the people, and if they stood up and if they had the financial backing to run for president, so that you would have an incredibly important person running for president who was very, very good, very honest, believe me, he would be assassinated. That person would be killed before they even got into the running. Because that's the way America works. If you know something you're not supposed to, they'll whack you.
And you said if these leaders, they do follow I guess, they have certain guidelines that they
That's
follow,
right.
and and they're pretty much puppets. We all know that. Even people that aren't into this type of thing that me and you and other people listening to this podcast are into, the alternative conspiracies, ancient arts, ancient mysteries, etc. Everybody knows that everybody in DC, they're selected to be there to pretty much to be the front man of the cabal. So with Trump in office now, do you think that, because you brought up assassination a while ago, do you think it's possible with him kind of butting heads pretty much on the world scene? Do you think that it is possible that, I don't wish this on the man, but if he keeps bumping heads with the cabal of the world, do you think that they will try to assassinate him as well, just like JFK?
Well, I mean, JFK wasn't the only one. Garfield and Abraham Lincoln and Anwar Sadat and God knows all the rest of them. You sit here for an hour and name up all the national leaders, important people have been assassinated. And so anything is possible. But I think that Trump is different than any other president. I mean, I've only been around for 77 years. But in my 70s...
But he is different, though.
Well, the thing about Trump that is interesting to me is that he actually talks and does things. Because in all of my years of being on the earth as an old man, I look back on my life, and all of the presidents and all the big important people that run the planet, they all have a modus operandi. They all have one way, a method of operating. They all look very, very sharp. They all have their $500 mohair suits and $2,000 hairdos and all that. But they don't say anything. The presidents come out and they're a little babbling about this, a little babble about that.
Most presidents are very scripted.
Yeah, and so they have nice suits on. They are very well dressed. They're highly protected. They are like kings and rulers. But in point of fact, communicating with the human race on the earth, they don't do that. Presidents and kings and rulers and Princess and Queen Mum and Prince Charles, they don't communicate with the poor slob in the street. They don't give a damn about the people. They call them commoners, So they don't care about commoners. They don't care about your family and your wife and children. They couldn't care less. Like George Carlin said, they don't care who you are. They don't care about you, period. And so, but Trump seems to be somebody who actually says things. I don't care one way or the other. I've been apolitical all my life. I've never voted for anybody my whole entire life. Even when I was in junior high school, I never voted for anything, ever, and I never have. But I'm not supposed to. I'm not supposed to vote for anything from day one. From the day I was 1 year old, I'm not supposed to vote for anything. And so that's why I haven't. I'm not supposed to take drugs or alcohol and all of that kind of thing and hallucinogenic drugs. I'm not supposed to. So that's why I never have. And the reason I say that is because the reason I'm talking to you right now, I'm not talking to you right now because I happen by chance to have been born. So I just happened by chance to be alive and happened by chance to be born. And so that's why I'm talking to you. I wasn't born by chance. I'm supposed to be here. I've been given something to do. My life has been a meaningful life from as far back as I can remember as a child. I already knew I'm here to do something. I have something to accomplish and to do. And so as far back as 7 and 8 years old, I already started having other world experiences that were training me and guiding me to prepare me to be who I'm going to be when I get older. And so that's why I say I'm not supposed to do any of this. I'm not supposed to be political, because what I am doing today on the world scene is I'm trying to educate the human race, not as an American, not as a European, just as a man on the earth, a man speaking to his fellow man on the earth. And I'm supposed to do that. That's why I've spent 58 years of my life doing it. So I am the only thing I would say about if anything ever happened to Trump, there will be a massive reaction in America and around the world that I think even the cabal knows that it will be massive. So you better think twice before you mess with him. And so, but I don't care. It doesn't matter to me what's going on in Washington, D.C. It doesn't matter. I don't care. I'm already I'm well established in what has gone on for the past 7,000 to 10,000 years in government and religion, and the philosophies of power and how the world works. And it's a strange world that we live in, and most people are not aware of any of it.
How far back does this agenda go with people, the cabal, and others pulling the strings behind the scenes? Also,
well, I would think at least minimum of 7,000 years ago, because so many of the concepts and ideas that lead us today, say in international banking, in international and foreign relations, nations dealing with nations, especially in the field of theology and religion, and the field of education and commerce, all of these major foundations for humans to live on the earth can be traced back to at least 7,000 years ago, to the Proto-Sumerians, to the Sumerians, the Phoenicians, the Canaanites, the Hittites, and then from there going into the Ottoman Empire, eventually also in the Grecian Empire. The ancient Greeks picked up on all these foundational concepts and ideas and incorporated them.
I don't mean to cut you off, Jordan, but what caused that spark back then? Was there some type of, I don't know, divine intervention or extraterrestrial influence back then?
That's exactly what it was. That's exactly what it was. Exactly. Precisely what it was. It was some sort of a divine intervention. And bringing that subject up, you need to understand that so many people talk about evolution, but evolution is not a legitimate subject to debate on a world scale. There is, of course, evolution takes place. We know that there is certain evolutionary processes that do take place in all of life, but not the kind of evolution that's been taught by the Marxist-Leninist Soviet communists, mouthpieces for the Soviet system in America. We call them professors, but they're actually nothing more than just useful idiots, as V.I. Lenin called them, useful idiots who will teach their own people all of our BS, and the people will believe it, and then one day we'll take over their government and take over their country and destroy them. Well, that's what's happened. So, but I think the subject, instead of being the important subject, instead of being evolution, should be intervention. That's where the real story of what's going on is.
How come academia doesn't
intervention.
touch on that subject?
Say it again?
How come modern day academia doesn't touch on intervention, a possible intervention? Instead, they want to say that we have evolved pretty much from a puddle of mud.
But why is it all over the world we teach our children Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny and Superman and the Simpsons and and all the other silly nonsense that we teach our children, how to play basketball and how to play tennis. And and how to ride motorcycles and all kinds of wonderful things that we teach our children, except the truth. You can't handle the truth. And so the reason why this kind of legitimate, real wisdom and knowledge is not taught, obviously, because the people who run this planet, and just understand there are people who own and run this planet, and they are not interested in you becoming highly intelligent and you doing your own thinking. They're not interested in that. Like George Carlin says, all they want is obedient workers. You just do what you're told to do and get your 12th grade education. You get a diploma, and that means it's a work permit. And now you can go out and get a job. Did they teach you anything? No, they just taught you what to kiss and when and how to write your name and how to do the little job you're going to do. But they don't teach you how to think. They teach you what to think, but not how to think. And so evolution is not the subject. The subject that you should be studying is intervention, implying. That means somebody from somewhere out there in the universe came here to this earth, because we're talking about going to the stars, so I'm sure there are other civilizations out in the stars millions of years ago who are talking about going out into space too. But some of them have been around for millions and millions of years. And their technology has grown and grown until finally they are able to go roaming in the stars. And so they came here. So I think what happened is that somebody came here a long time ago, and I'm talking about millions of years ago, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years ago, and saw on this earth the indigenous creatures that were here, and they decided to begin to mess with their DNA and begin to recreate all kinds of strange creatures from what was already here. We're doing the same thing today. We're doing the same thing today. And in universities in Europe and America and Russia and around the world, we're taking one animal, we'll take a rat and give it other DNA from other animals and crossbreeding creatures. Yeah, just playing with it and see what you come up with, And so we know that they've been doing that for years. So somebody came here a long time ago and did that to us, and they have been, transforming us. And that's in the Bible. That's the whole story of the Old Testament, as intervention. Somebody came here and changed us.
So, Jordan, with this intervention from thousands, possibly hundreds of thousands of years ago, because with all the bullshit that is going on with the world today, if people that have followed your work, you talk about that this agenda, the New World Order ideologies, have been incrementally like a drip drop effect for thousands of years.
That's right.
So if it goes back to the intervention of, I guess you could say, our gods with the lowercase g or big case G, whatever you want to call it, why would they? So does that mean that our creators, are they benevolent or malevolent?
Yeah, very good question, and that's one of the oldest questions out there. The old ancient Gnostics in India and Egypt, especially the Egyptian Gnostics thousands of years ago, asked the same identical question: whoever created us, are they good, or the God who created us good or evil, or did he mean for us to be evil? And so, we're made in the image and likeness of God, we're told in the Bible, in Genesis. We're made in the image and likeness of God. Well, here's the point that maybe we should talk about for a moment. You know, if you read in Genesis 1:1, it says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." Well, the translators for the King James English version, the translators were very, very good with the King's English. They understood it well. But they weren't that hot on Hebrew and ancient Koine Greek. And so they made a few little errors, a few little mistakes, and a lot of times they would come across points and ideas in the ancient scriptures that they didn't understand. They never heard this term before. They didn't understand it. So they translated it the best way they could. And of course, that we coming along today, we think we've got the whole truth and nothing but the truth. So we begin to talk about that point and never realizing, no, the translator just added that in because they didn't know what else to say. That doesn't mean that it's right if you're reading. You just go back and look at the original. And so a classic example of what I'm talking about is in, say, for instance, in Genesis 1:1, because in the Hebrew language, God is spelled for us E-L. Very simple. We spell God in English G-O-D. But in Hebrew, it's E-L. L is God. So if you go to a Hebrew, an Old Testament Hebrew Bible, and read Genesis 1:1, it should say, "In the beginning, El created the heavens and the earth." But that's not what it says. It doesn't say El created the heavens and the earth. In the Hebrew Bible, it says, "In the beginning, the Elohim created the heavens and the earth." Elohim, not El. It's a totally different word meaning something totally different. Elohim is like putting an S on the end of the word car. You have C-A-R or C-A-R apostrophe S, means more than one. So Elohim is a plural added to the word El, which is God. So the correct translation would be, "In the beginning, the gods created the heavens and the earth." Not God. The gods, more than one. And then later on in Genesis 1:28, when the gods were getting ready to create Adam and Eve, they said, "Come, let us." Who is us? Is God talking to himself? So it says, God said, "Come, let us make man in our image, after our likeness." And so Christians will tell you, well, there it is. There's the first place we see that God created man. But I've talked to the rabbis many years ago and ever since. And the rabbis who are really well informed will tell you that nowhere in the Old Testament, nowhere does it say that God created man and woman. It doesn't say that. And so we say, well, God created the first man and woman. It doesn't say that. Go back and read it. What it says is the gods said, "Come, let us create man in our image and in our likeness." Not create man. He's already here. Let's create man in our image to look like us and to act and be like us. And so somebody came here a long time ago and saw the indigenous creatures that were here that we today refer to as ancient hominids, or the Neanderthal, and all these ancient cavemen kind of creatures that we talk about. And they were built very similar to us. They did walk on the bipedal. They had 2 feet, and they had arms like us. They were like us, similar, but not like us. And so somebody came here and saw those indigenous creatures, and they said to themselves, whoever they were, they said, let's make him look like us. Let us make man and to look like us and to be like us. And then later on, I think it's in Genesis 3, where the gods looked down on the earth at the creation that they've created, and they said, see, now man has become as one of us, knowing good and evil. See, man has become as one of us. And so the implication is that we are now made in the image and the likeness of the God that created us. Well, then that means that the God created us, who actually, in fact, created us, looks like you. He's about 6 foot, 6'2", and eats hamburgers and have a beer and sit there and talk with you, because he's like us, and he's made us in his image and likeness. And so, we have people around us who are absolutely loony and wackos and crazy.
So is it possible, Jordan, that it seems like with this intervention, the intentions were good. The intentions were really good of the gods that came to intervene. But do you think that there were a few bad apples, a few bad generals, I guess, for lack of a better term, and they kind of they did their own maybe experiments, or maybe they mind controlled their, I guess, us?
Well, let me ask you something. Isn't that the story of the world? Isn't that what's happening today?
Exactly. Exactly. And that's why I kind of bring it up, because it seemed like at first their intentions were good, according to your work and a lot of other researchers' work. But maybe you had a few bad apples that brought about these ancient arts, these ancient societies.
The scriptures expressly says, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness." So we're to be made like God, like the gods. Well, then if we're made in the image, looking like them, and in the likeness, and now the way we act and live, if we're made in the image and likeness of the gods, then that would tell you that yes, as above, so below. As above in the heavens, the gods, there are many extraordinarily brilliant, important gods who are good and decent and want to do something of value. And then there's going to be others who are there also, who are wicked and loony and strange, and giving themselves over to sex and drugs and dark secrets. And so, like us, there's all kinds of good people in the city, and then there's all kinds of ignorant people in the city, and then there's all kinds of criminals in the city. Well, we're made in the image and likeness of the gods who created us. So there's good, bad, and crazy, and indifferent, and loony in the spirit world also. We call them demons and devils and poltergeists and spirits and ghosts. And so there's a whole world of knowledge out there that we've never been privileged to know about in relation to those who created us.
I would like to give you my little theory on what we're discussing with that. And it might be just a little winded at first to bring up my point.
Yeah.
But, okay, let's go to the pyramids at first. There's pyramids all over the world. You have them in South America. You have them in the Middle East. Or Egypt. You have them in India, Japan. They're everywhere. In the United States, the pyramids are everywhere. And they're even saying there's pyramids in Antarctica. And so do you think that with this intervention that happened so long ago, let's say these gods, they came here, and I like to look at these gods, let's say they were like a bunch of generals in the military, and they were stationed all over the world to conduct their experiments. So, and because researchers have fathomed, why are there pyramids all over the world? They did not have this travel back then. So why do they have all this same type of technology? So with all these gods landing in different parts of the world when they came here to intervene with us, is it possible that the bad apples that I was talking about a while ago, they may have landed in the Middle East? Because what has happened over the past couple thousand years, wars, famines, rumors of wars, etc. Do you think something like that is possible?
Of course it is. I was in business with Zechariah Sitchin. I didn't just know him. I was in business with him. I got him sent to 5 different countries. I helped get his books published. I got him into speaking at international conferences and radio and television. And because I was in business with him for quite a few years, I had opportunities to sit and talk with him over and over and over again, all over. Every time he would go to some foreign country, whatever I would sit and talk with him, and I asked him all kinds of questions about this kind of thing too. And so, yeah, it's overwhelmingly obvious that somebody came here. They're very highly intelligent, but they're not human. They've come here. They look like you. They look human, but they're not. And so in South Africa, for instance, in Central and South Africa, there's mining companies that have gone down into the earth so far, far more than any other mining companies do. And they've gone down into the earth where they've hit strata, which is at least 3.5 billion years old. And paleontologists all over the world agree. All over the world, paleontologists agree that if you go down to a certain depth, way down, that you're going to be in strata of the earth that's at least 3.5 billion years old. And so when they go down there and they're digging, they're bringing up handmade artifacts, beautiful handmade artifacts, molten metals that are carved into and made into simple little artifacts with writing and printing on them, and things that we are amazed to find in strata, which is 3.5 billion years old, intelligently handmade artifacts out of metals, the different kinds of metal, out of gold, etc. And so the implication of that is that somebody was here, obviously, 3.5 billion years ago, and they knew metallurgy. They knew how to melt metals and carve artifacts with different metals, and then they died and left it where they were. And so we're talking about 3.5 billion years ago, somebody was on the earth creating handmade artifacts. 3.5 billion years ago.
So is it possible that there have been many throughout millennia, many of interventions throughout the ancient history, up to a couple thousand years ago, 100,000 years ago, and like you said, 3 billion years ago? Or 3 million years ago?
I would say up till last Wednesday, because whoever and whatever that life form was, 3.5 billion years ago, they obviously came here from somewhere, and it implies that they were a lot smarter than we are, and they could still be here. You know, they reproduce too, so maybe their kind are continually reproducing themselves like we do, but they were far smarter than we are. Excuse me. And as such, they keep away from us, you know, and they make sure we don't see them. But they're around. There are many times that we know that strange creatures are seen in this world. And now, because of the advent of the video cameras, we're now seeing on YouTube all kinds of strange phenomena and creatures that people happen by chance, just happen to have a camera along and start filming. And so we call them Bigfoot, the Yetis, and the abominable snowman, and all that kind of thing. And all over the world, there are these kinds of creatures that show up in forests, and dinosaurs in Central America and South America, prehistoric animals in America, It's just amazing some of the life forms that are here on the earth that we thought were gone millions of years ago. No, they're not gone millions of years ago. They're still here. And so it's an extraordinary story of the betrayal of the human race by not telling the people of this world the real history of the earth and the powers that be on it, and the secret powers that guide the destiny of the human race. Our whole life as humans on the earth is being guided. And we've been given ideas, we've been fed concepts and ideas that we're supposed to live by. And so if you're in a particular area of the world, in what we call the Middle East, well, then you are given to understand. You don't have to intellectually understand, but we are given to understand that the God who created you is Allah. And you don't know that Allah has nothing to do with anything. It's just a word for God in the Arabic language. And Allah was applied to a sun god many thousands of years ago. And then 1,000 years ago, it began to be applied to a moon god. And today it's just applied to something. No, the Islamic people don't know what God is. All they know is they bow down and kiss the ground 3 times a day to worship Allah and have no idea in the world what Allah is or who it is.
And that kind of brings me back to my point, Jordan, with when I was telling you about my little theory. Whenever the gods come here to intervene, they landed all over the world, different parts of the world. Could one of the gods that landed in the Middle East, Allah, could that have been the one that, I don't know, maybe have planted the seed that this New World Order type of ideology has led up into the present day? Because if you examine history in the ancient past, there has been, just like I said, wars and rumors of wars, especially in the Middle East, infighting and murder and everything else like that.
Yes, and I think that's exactly right, because the more we change, the more we stay the same. We're still worshiping the same old Allah, that was done thousands and thousands of years ago as a moon god. And then, 1,000 years before that, Allah was a sun god. And today, it's a whole bunch of ideas and understandings. But Allah, yes, very, very most likely, it makes sense to me that Allah may have been actually an extraterrestrial who was one of the many that came down here, and they said, "Come, let us." Oh, what do you mean us? All of us. Us. Come, let us make man in our image, after our likeness. Let's make him look like us. And then when they did that, we will now divide them. You can take because you're a god and I'm a god. We're all 15 of us are gods. So then we divide up the spoils. You take the blacks and he takes the brown, and the other guy says, "I want the Chinese, I want the yellow," and the other saying, "No, give me the Jews," and another one says, "No, give me and so they're dividing us up. They've created us now. Now they divide us up as to who's going to own who and who's going to have control over what group.
And that's why there's so many religions up to date.
Yeah, and that's why there's so many religions.
Because each religion has their own god, which back in the day, like we're talking about, the gods came here and landed, I guess, different parts of the world, and they created, they did this intervention and eventually led to a religion of that god that
that's exactly right.
Territory on the world.
And that's why in the 10 Commandments, a story in the Bible, if you go back to the Old Testament, read about the 10 Commandments, it says, God said to the Israelites, God said, "I am the Lord your God, and I shall not have strange gods before me." What is being said there, nobody's looking at very closely. Go back and read it. It says, "I am the Lord your God." There are other gods. There's about 20 of us here, but I am the Lord your God, the one you chose. And so I don't want any other gods before me. Well, that's the same thing a guy will say to his girl when they're going to get married.
But why
I'm
is
the
that,
guy.
Jordan? Is that because, do you think that these gods were infighting amongst each
Yeah.
other?
hmm That's the way we are. That's the way we are in any big company. We're made,
You wouldn't think a
we're
highly
made in
advanced, I
we are
guess.
made in the image and likeness of God. Therefore, when you get high up in the power and organizations and government and syndicates and mafia and anything else, the guys at the top are always fighting for power to see who's going to be the big boss, the boss of all bosses. And so I'm just saying that this is why, the guy says to his girlfriend, that they are engaged and to be married. Well, I'm the man in your life. Yes, there are many other handsome and good-looking men, and there are many young men around, but I'm the man that you are committed to. So I am the Lord your God. I'm the man your man, and I don't want to see you with other men. The same thing with God. I am the Lord your God. I'm jealous, and I don't want to see you with any other God. I am not the all-encompassing, all God. No, there's just many of us. But I'm the Lord your God, and so I won't have any other gods before me. He didn't say there were no other gods. He just don't want you messing with any of the other gods. So anyway, the bottom line is that the world of religion, the world of government, the world of commerce, the world that we live in is totally, totally different than anything you've ever heard. When you really start to look at it and understand where it's going, where it's come from, it's an extraordinary story of how much the people of this world do not know about where we've come from, where we are now, and where we're going. But it's really very frightening because now we have 7.5 billion people on the earth, and that 7.5 billion people can reproduce overnight, and that's a lot of people being born, and they all want to eat. They all need to eat. They all need to sleep. They all need fresh water. And so now you've got a problem that's monumental in the size that it presents. You've got 7.5 billion people who want to eat 3 times a day. Where's the food coming from? And where's the fresh water? Well, there ain't none. There is no fresh water. And if there is a place somewhere on the earth that has fresh water in a bay or in a lake somewhere, that's not going to feed the world. So where are you going to get the fresh water for them to take showers and drink and cook? Well, there is no fresh water. It's all contaminated. And so, well, then you have to give them water out of a bottle. So now, even in America, I've been around the world many times, and when I'm in Egypt or in the Mediterranean area or Europe, Africa, people drink water out of bottles. Why? Because the water there will kill you. The water is so polluted that you have to buy bottled water. Well, today in America, that's the way we drink water in America, bottled water. Why? Simple. There is no clean water, period, on the earth. Bottom line, there is none. Well, yeah, but you've got got 7.5 billion people who do not look at the future, who do not know how to spell future. They don't know anything about the future. All they know is how to reproduce and create. And so it's a very exciting and wonderful idea to create life. But all you're doing is just reproducing more humans on the earth who are coming in. There's already 7.5 billion. And so now that many more billions are coming in, and there's already no clean water. There's already no fresh food. There's already, devastation everywhere. But that's all right. We got billions and billions more coming in. And, so we don't, it doesn't matter as long as everybody's fed and everybody's got their beer and pretzels and hamburgers and ball games. Nobody's thinking about the future.
And it
So
seems
it's
like
just
this
like,
is a prison planet, of course.
yeah,
But
that's
why?
what I think.
How come? Because we have lived in this. It's getting worse day by day, year by year. For the past thousands of years, it's incrementally have gotten worse. But it seems like, I guess back to what we were talking a while ago with these gods that came here to intervene amongst us or with us. It seems like the evil gods, if lack of a better term, it seems like they are winning. They have created this prison planet amongst us, and they use certain leaders amongst the world. We call them the cabal, the Illuminati, or whatever. It seems like they are winning. How come the good gods, how come they have not stepped in and intervened and have taken control of all this evilness that has been going on the past thousands of years?
Well, I got to tell you, that's a very good question. I think I've asked myself that question, God knows how many times. You're right. How come we're the good God? We're the good that we're always talking about how God is love and God loves you and all of that. When in fact, no, the Bible doesn't say God is love. We hear that all the time. It's a mistranslation, a misunderstanding by people, like the Bible says, who are blind leading the blind, and they both fall into the pit. Well, that's what we have today. We call them clergy in the churches. They're blind, ignorant, ill-informed, and unread, and have no idea what's going on. And they teach the millions and millions of people in the churches the same stupidity and ignorance. And so it's the blind leading the blind, and they all fall into the pit. So once you begin to see that the whole world has been misled, it's just incredibly frightening, because I can see where the world is going. More and more people are being born every day. Nobody thinks about that. Nobody's worrying about it. And everybody's thinking, oh, we're going to have a baby. Isn't that wonderful? They're having a baby. Yeah, well, 7.5 billion people will multiply themselves into 10 billion. And that 10 billion will ultimately, within a few years, multiply itself into 13 billion. And eventually, we're gonna end up in a place where you've got the entire earth filled with people and an IQ of 40, where nobody has any education, no understanding, no spiritual grounding, no conceptual understanding of where we've come from, what we're doing here, or where we're going. We just have more babies. And more babies, and more babies, and there's no water to start with. There's no clean food to start with. There's no safe place on the earth to start with, but it doesn't matter. We got to have more babies. So in time, we're going to wake up. The human race will wake up to a day which is coming when we will finally see what we have done to ourselves. And there will be no way out for us. It will be no longer any way out of the situation. We will have put ourselves into an unbelievable apocalyptic situation where there's so many people by the millions in the big cities of the world, and starving, sleeping under bridges, broke, having no money, having nothing. And especially in Africa and Asia and around the world. So I just see that the end of the human experiment is coming. And I am telling you, unless and until there is intervention by a higher force in the universe bent toward good. If there are such entities in the universe as good and creative gods or spirit entities who are here to help us, or who created us. If somebody does not intervene from on high into our earthly existence and do something to help the human family, then there's just no hope for us, because the people themselves have no idea in the world what's going on. They have no education. They have no spiritual insight into where we are as a creature, as a creation on the earth. So here we're talking about going out to the stars, we're going out to the moon, and going out to Mars. Why? Because the people at the top know this earth is not going to be here much longer. It's going to be chaos soon, and they know it. The big shots who run this planet, they know what's coming. They can see it. 7.5 billion people reproduce themselves. We don't have enough food to start with right now. Well, wait till you have 17 billion. And that's not that far off. And so eventually mankind is going to have to get off the earth. He's ruined it. He's messed it up. He's polluted every single facet of the earth. And now there's 20 billion more people coming out. It's just a frightening situation.
But Jordan, I don't think people like me or you are going to have a first class seat off world. If you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be the ones, the cabal, the whatever you want to call them, the Illuminati, the leaders, the ones that call the shots behind the scenes, the ones that have the money to put these corrupt politicians in office, the ones that are calling all the shots. They're the ones that's going to get this first class ticket off world.
Oh yeah, you're right. So you're not gonna get nothing. It used to be. Look at when I was a kid. It used to be. I remember hearing that they said good guys finish last, but that's not the case anymore. I mean, I remember hearing, good guys, they finish last. No, it's not the case anymore. It's changed. Today, it's good guys don't finish at all, period. If you're good, you will either die, or you're going to be broke, or thrown into prison, or mocked and finally die in a pauper's grave. If you're really good, if there's something really intrinsically good about you, you'll go to prison. In America, no good deed goes unpunished in America. And so if you are here in America, for instance, and you're trying to do something to help your fellow man medically or educationally, or to do something to help the human family in their condition, you will go to prison, and you will pay, and you will pay a horrible price, because the people who are in power do not want the people of America helped. They don't want to help them. They want them dead. They want them out of the way. They're tired of the masses of people in America who believe that they are free. They're tired of seeing people running around in America talking about we're the land of the free and home of the brave, and we're free, because the masters are not interested in slaves who think that they're free and they want to be free. That's not the way it works. And so
they give us the illusion of freedom.
Yeah, you got that right. And so it's just an illusion of freedom. Yeah. And so like George Carlin says, yeah, we're free. And Dick Gregory says the same thing. We're free to make all of our own choices. You can have chocolate or strawberry or vanilla. We can choose anything we want as long as it's ice cream. But that's it. Anything else, you don't have any choice. And so it gives you an idea that you have a choice. You can pick chocolate or vanilla or anything you want. You have a choice. But actually in life, you don't have any choices. You were born as a slave and you will die as a slave. Why? Because knowledge is power. And you don't have any knowledge as the way commerce works, as the way government works. Go to a law dictionary and look up commerce. You think commerce means business. No. Go to a law dictionary, look up the word commerce. It will tell you in law the word commerce means sex. S-E-X. So sex play among humans is called commerce. It's just business. It's a supply and demand. And so when I see you come out of a restaurant 2 o'clock in the morning with some girl The next day I say to you, you know, that girl you were with last night, she's bad company. And you say, mind your own business. And then I find out you're going to get married and she's going to be your partner. What are you talking about? Partner? Business? And to mind your own business. Well, I don't care what you're doing with her because it's none of my business. But she's bad company. So as long as she's not my company, I don't care. That's your problem. It's your business. And so business and company and partner, it all implies commerce. It's all a business. And so when you get married, that's why you have to have a license when you get married, because it's a business.
All in capital letters, too.
That's it. It's all a business. And you don't think it's a business? Well, if it don't work out, you're not going to God. You're going to court. And you better bring your house and your car and everything you own, including your wallet. Bring everything into court because it's just business. And so you're going to find out that what you thought it was going to be a wonderful, holy marriage, no, it's a piece of business, and you screwed up. And so your company, that bad company, and your partner has decided they don't want to do business with you anymore, so you're going to pay.
So, get you, Jordan.
Yep. So I know. So that's I understand how the world works. But I understand, and it's very sad because so many young people want to get married. So many young people, have all these wonderful ideas about life. And the government's not telling you what's really going on. They're not telling you how this thing really works.
They sort of do, Jordan, through Hollywood, in a way.
Mm-hmm.
In a way. And why is that? It seems like if you watch, man, I can name countless movies. It seems like because we know that Hollywood, they are in bed with DC and the Pentagon and other cabals of the world. But why do they secretly plant their seeds through Hollywood instead of just telling us on Fox News or CNN?
Yeah, right. Well, it's all entertainment, well, let me tell you this, that many thousands of years ago, before the Roman Empire even existed, we're talking about maybe 4,000 years ago, before the Roman Empire even existed, there was in Europe, because the black man comes from Africa, the Orientals come from the Orient, the different peoples of the world come from different areas of the earth. Well, the white man comes from Europe. And so what we call the white man Caucasian, or the white man, comes from northern, eastern, western, and southern Europe, all over Europe, north, east, west, and south. And that's where we get the word news, N-E-W-S, news, is north, east, west, and south. So anything that happens in the north, east, west, or south is news. And so in Europe, before Rome existed, there was already people living in Europe. There was no Roman Empire, but there were lots of people there. And those people were called Druids. And the Druids were the most important in the European theater of life. The Druids were the most important. They were the doctors, the lawyers, the judges, the priests, the businessmen. I don't care what it is. If you were important in that ancient time, you were a Druid. And so one of the most important symbols that was used in the Druid system of power in Europe was a magic wand. Like today, we have musicians, orchestra leaders who use a magic wand to conduct the orchestra. And then that's musicians. Then you have magicians, like musicians, but they're magicians. They use a magic wand in their magic. And so magic wands were always used by the leaders of the Druid society in Europe. And magic wands were always made out of the wood of a holly tree. It's made out of hollywood. And so today, all over the world, that we in America are working our magic of Hollywood on the whole world. And people pay money to go and see the movies that are coming out of Hollywood, never realizing in a moment, not even beginning to realize. Hollywood has been around for a long time. The wood of a holly tree. That's why on Christmas it's very, you kiss a girl under the holly, and holly is very important during the Thanksgiving and especially in Christmas in the wintertime. Holly is green, and so it's used in the winter celebrations because it's still green where everything else is dried up and dead because of the winter, but holly stays green. So the holly wood, and that's why today we have something called the magic of Hollywood. And people don't realize at all that Hollywood is nothing more than a center for profoundly evil magic. Legitimate, de jure, real, preternatural magic. The word used to be supernatural, but now that's the incorrect term. Supernatural means it's natural, but it's really, real natural. It's supernatural. But the correct term, when you're talking about the spirit world and demonic stuff, the word is preternatural, meaning not of this world, and not of the world that you live in. So the magic of Hollywood is preternatural. It's not anything that you think that's going on. It's something that you don't know what's going on. No one's ever told you. And so it's a very, very important for people to know that we are being misled by Hollywood, by the magic that's been going on for thousands of years. And today, of course, like the scripture says, by their fruits you shall know them. Well, what is the fruitage of the three major religions of this world? Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. What is the fruitage of those three religions? If it isn't war, bloodshed, violence, and hatred, and stupidity, and ignorance, and money making, and sex, drugs, and rock and roll. That's the fruitage of Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. So what is the fruitage of Hollywood? It's violence, corruption, ignorance. The implications are frightening for the human race. We have nothing going on in the human family that is helping people to understand the world they live in, where the words come from, and how to conduct yourself, and people go to court every day, never realizing why do you go to court? Well, you play basketball on a court, you play tennis on a court. So, how do you play tennis on a court? You play with a racket. Yeah. So once you begin to see how all of this is Hollywood magic, the whole Western civilization on the earth is all a magical, demonic depravity. And it's beginning to look like it now that it's all falling apart. Now it's beginning to look like some monstrosity that we didn't know what was going on. And now you're beginning to see the very portals of power on the earth. The American political system, the Russian political system, the whole international system of power on the earth is collapsing. There's wars and rumors of wars and violence, bloodshed, a lack of clean water, no food. It's all very frightening, and it's all coming to a head, and it's all coming to a head very soon. And the people have never been told any of it.
And to round things up for this time, Jordan, where do you see this all heading? And is there an optimistic future for mankind?
Well, I've had people tell me that, well, they hear me and they say, well, Jordan, people are waking up now. People are beginning to wake up around the world. And I say, well, it's about time. I've been talking to them for 60 years. It's about time people wake up. But then I say, just because people are waking up, that's what you do when you're in prison. When you're in a federal prison for 40 years, every morning you wake up. It doesn't mean you're going anywhere. It doesn't mean you're any better off. If you had any brains, you'd just go back to sleep because you're not going anywhere. Nothing's going to change just because you wake up. And so, and of course, I got a lot of people saying, well, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And I say, yes, it's a train coming. I think that what the world is heading toward right now is an all-encompassing, apocalyptic day of understanding, and I'm trying to figure out what word to use. When the whole world will one day wake up and find out that for 10,000 years we have been misled purposely into becoming who we are now, and purposely setting us up so that we will fail on the world scene. And the world's going to find out that we have been misled purposely by some very powerful creatures and entities that we don't know even exist today. And that's what I've been trying to do, and is to help people wake up to find out how the world works while they still can do it. And since we're coming to the end of the program, I would like to say to everyone, if you're really interested in the dark side of what's really going on, where we've come from, where we are, and where we're heading, I've been doing this kind of study for 60 years. So what I have is I have a website called Jordan Maxwell Show, SHOW, Jordan Maxwell Show. And that's my website. There may be others out there with my name, but that's my website, is Jordan Maxwell Show. And when you go to Jordan Maxwell Show, it's a podcast. You'll see a lot of free radio shows I've done and doing. But there's also another website I want to call your attention to that's on my website, Jordan Maxwell Show, and it's called a Jordan Maxwell Research Society website. And that's a small website that's getting bigger each day that you can join. You join the Jordan Maxwell Research Society. It's only a one-time contribution of $30 for a lifetime subscription. And I am uploading, or my webmaster is uploading, all of my research over all the many years I've been doing this kind of thing, with pictures and documents and research papers and audio and video and all the top other researchers in the world, who they are, why you need to know about them, what they're doing, and words and phrases and what these words mean. All kinds of research. It's all itemized and alphabetized. It's all there. And I'm adding more stuff every day. And so you can go on my Jordan Maxwell Show and join my research website. Just call Jordan Maxwell Research Society website. And of course, I have a couple of videos too, that if you're interested in two of the most controversial subjects I ever dealt with, I have now two 90-minute, an hour to 90-minute videos that you can purchase also. So anyway, the bottom line is, you want more information about the kind of thing I'm talking about. And while if you're happy where you are right now and you're well fed and you're happy, then you don't need to know anything about me. But if you're smart enough to know that things are happening in the world and you're going to be affected by it real soon, and if you're smart enough to know that, and if you're clever enough to know the importance of real knowledge, about how the world really works, then go on my website and join my Research Society website, and you'll find out there's been a world of knowledge that's been held from you that you didn't know. And that's what I do. That's who I am, Jordan Maxwell. I want to thank you for having me on tonight, and we can always do it another time if you wish.
And thank you very much, Jordan. I hope you have a good evening, and I will try to have you on sometimes in the near future, and we can discuss maybe some symbology.
We can do it. Yeah, there's so much that we can always, there's so many subjects.
Exactly.
Always remember one thing, that your mind is like a parachute. It don't work if it's not open. Exactly. What you need to do is open your mind and do some investigation while you can, while it's still there. My work is there, but it may not be there for long. So you need to go to Jordan Maxwell's show and avail yourself of the information while you can do it. And again, thank you for having me on, and I'd be delighted to do a show anytime you want to. Let me know. That's right.
And check out his work. Support his research. He's been doing this for nearly 60 years. You might as well say 60 years. And he is, like the show, he is definitely a pioneer in this field. And please support his work. And until next time, keep truthing and have a good one.